Welcome to Strange Paradigms. In this weekly show, we'll be taking a look into the news and headlines to pick out curious reports of the strange, the weird, and the mysterious. Anything from UFO news to science advancements, the paranormal, and stuff labeled fringe science and fringe phenomena. The topics we cover are fascinating, while some are unnerving and others disturbing, but definitely show that we live in a strange world full of strange mysteries. The idea is for you, the viewers, to be able to offer your thoughts and input on the stories that we cover in the live chat. Each news item we go over in the show, I will put the links to them in the description box below once this live show is over, as well as chapters on the timeline index. Welcome to all my first-time viewers and listeners. I hope you find this show informative and that you'll subscribe to this channel and check out my other shows and content. Please make sure to share this video with anyone or groups or forums for those who you think will be interested, because a lot of this growth on the channel has a lot to do with you, my wonderful viewers and listeners. I would love to say hello to everyone in the live chat, to all of my moderators. Jessica, thank you. Stan, Brian, Gray, Hides, Jose slash Juan, Michael, Pigpen, Laura, Britt, thank you so much. Tyler, Adrian, hello, and Deranged Lunatic, thank you so much for the super sticker, starting the show out strong. And Mr. Webb, thank you as well. Before we get started, the new show, The Unknown Zone, is on Mondays at 10 a.m. PST. This Monday, just like a few days ago, was on the mysteries of Machu Picchu and hints of an hidden ancient advanced knowledge. And next Monday will be about the mysteries of the Sphinx. You know, getting in the vibe with mysteries with the history. We're actually doing a part 3 on the mysteries of Egypt. So I thought, why not do the unknown zone on something related to Egypt? On Tuesday, shifting the paradigm, with me will be James Fox. You do not want to miss this interview. He drops some bombshells in relation to his new film, Moment of Contact. This Tuesday, just a few days ago, was Tui Snyder, a graveyard historian. Very fascinating and very appropriate for the spooky season, as Halloween is just a few days away. So first off, happy almost Halloween to everyone. Okay, and lastly, if you haven't joined already, the Discord server has surpassed 1,000 members for the after show chat, UFO chat, paranormal chat, and a bunch of other rooms. There's always people on the server 24/7 from around the world. It's friendly, it's safe, secure, and it's free. And you can chat with me there also, and many other like-minded individuals posting pictures, videos, and your experiences, as well as asking questions. And there's a lot of great discussion. It's live. So I will place the link to the server in the live chat shortly. All right. With that out of the way, let's get into some news. Of course, we are going to start off with a UFO story. I'm going to share an image here just as a visual aid while I go ahead and read this story for you. Actually, this image right here was taken by the witness that he released to New Fork, which I will read that to you in just a moment. Here is an image, again, just as a visual aid, but also an actual picture. So a witness in Mobile, Alabama, reported watching and videoing a shape-shifting object that may have affected his vehicle's electronics at about 4:50 a.m. on July 29th, 2020, according to testimony from the National UFO Reporting Center, New Fork. And now, while this was reported in July, articles, the media is just now catching on to this, and that's why I am reading it today, because this article was just released a few days ago. He writes in the testimony, his name is unknown, he has remained anonymous, but this is what it states. He writes, I was driving down the road when I saw a bright orb-like light moving through the sky. I stopped the truck and I picked something out to make sure it wasn't a star. and this object continued to move. Well, then he got out of the truck and began to take a video, and he states, and then it stopped, and it was still moving up and down, right to left, all while it would disappear and then reappear. There were no houses or anyone around, and I started feeling like I was being watched. Gary, thank you so much for the ramen and sriracha fund. Can never go wrong with that combo. Thank you for supporting the channel. So, this witness, he steps out of the truck and moved near a tree to block himself from the object's view to prove the object was not observing him. But then it gets even weirder. He states, a short moment and it made its way around the tree and we were looking at each other again. He's referring to this UFO. It states, it was hard to judge the distance. I started to film it and it would disappear and reappear. And 3 times it would split into 2 orbs before quickly going back to one. I got into my truck and drove to a more comfortable spot just in case anything bad were to happen. Right before the light started to break the horizon, it went directly east in the sky before completely disappearing. Weirdest thing of all, while watching this phenomenon while standing outside of my vehicle, my windshield wipers came on for a split 3 seconds. My truck was turned off, and I was already on edge trying to understand the whole situation. The windshield wipers came on, and it was so loud, it almost gave me a heart attack. Now, it's a new truck, and it's never done anything like that. Then the craziest thing about this is that he says, when I got into my truck and I hit the start button, my radio was on a Christian station. Now, that station has never been saved in my truck, and I was not listening to that station before I turned off the car. That is what his testimony says to New Fork. What a wild story, a wild sighting. And for those that have had their own sightings or from the research that I have done, there are many accounts that that state that when they see something, their car shuts down. In this case, he actually turned off his car, but the windshield wipers came on their own, and then there was this weird radio station. Oh, zoom in, please. Okay, so here is actually just a visual aid of just while I read the article. This is actually one of the pictures that he took, but it's not a very enticing photo. I will state that. So, um, Kyle Miss, I will zoom in for you though. So that when I came across this article, I thought it's going to be a great way to start today's show. A UFO sighting, one that is pretty recent. And it's not just someone seeing an orb in the sky, but it affected his environment as well. And as he had mentioned, he was already on edge from this whole thing because he believed this craft was following him, was observing him, so that when he tried to hide under a tree, the object went around the tree and looked straight back at him. It's a bit spooky and it makes you question, let's say it was extraterrestrial. Let's just go down that route. What would be the purpose? And let's even say it was a black project. Why would a black project want to be seen by a person? They would want to be stealthy, right? They wouldn't want to follow some random person in Alabama to state, I'm going to follow this guy and see how he reacts. Maybe it could have been a psychology test. We don't know. But it even affected his truck, his brand new truck as well. So it's a bit odd. And then it went to a Christian radio station, which again, it was not saved onto his car. CE4 Research, thank you so much for the super sticker. What do you all think about the story before we go ahead and move on? Patrice says, observing and following sounds about right. It's a bit spooky. I think even though I've been doing the research for quite some time, if that were to happen to me, I would feel a little like on the eerie side. Great for the Halloween season, of course, as Halloween is on Monday, but still a little odd. Of course, I would bring out my camera, my cell phone. I would be documenting everything to the best of my ability, but still be a little weird. Hyde says, Religious channel on radio must be an angel. Could be. We don't know. But it's worth musing about. Where's Puck? Robert, I'm so glad you asked. Puck the Puck Wedgie is right here. He is my co-host. He didn't say much last week or yesterday, but he's still kind of feeling the vibe if he feels comfortable speaking about these topics today. But Hides, to get back to what you mentioned about and what I've mentioned about the radio station, Christian radio station, I wonder why a Christian radio station though. Like maybe it was the closest radio source. It's it's weird to why it would land on that one where you have a good, let's just say 15, 20 stations on FM, another so on AM, right? And they just happen to pick that specific station. Huh. Interesting. Very interesting. Now I'm just guessing on the amount of radio stations. Okay. I'm really not too sure. I do not listen to the radio. I'm just taking a good guess. Jessica, thank you so much. It says, so happy there will be more Egypt shows. I like Jimmy's idea to do a show on each site. RV fun and equipment for RV. Thank you, Jessica. And Puck also says thank you. Puck the Puck Wedgie. For those I don't know what a Puck Wedgie is, for all my first time listeners and viewers, Puck Wedgies, they sound super cute and super adorable. But they are these goblins that live in the Bridgewater Triangle in Massachusetts. They're super mischievous and they will try to hurt you. But the name is adorable. And this is just alleged accounts by the native tribes that used to live there in Massachusetts. But ever since I covered it, the Bridgewater Triangle, and I covered Puck Wedgies, I forever fell in love to the point where I got a plushie of a Puck Wedgie. Okay. For those that are new, that wanted to know. And this is just alleged accounts, but still adorable. Jessica says, "You're welcome, Puck." Hyde says, "Did I hear Ewan Chu?" You're funny. All right, moving on to our next one. Again, because it's the spooky season, I have a ghost story for you. And this one takes place in a hospital. It seems that hospitals, you just get this weird dynamic of constant birth and constant death. You're also always harboring the sick and those close to death as well. Well, this story is pretty interesting. This is just a visual aid. This is not an actual picture relating to this ghost type entity, but a tale of a benevolent, sweet smelling ghost who was said to heal sick babies at Scunthorpe Hospital was the talk of the town after details found among a collection of stories left behind by a veteran ghost hunter. In December of 2004, the Scunthorpe Telegraph reported on a mysterious visitor at the General Hospital who takes form of a long-skirted nurse smelling of violet perfume. The specter was among dozens of alleged hospital hauntings from around the country collected by the late ghost hunter Andrew Green, who passed away earlier this year. According to legend, some staff over the years had claimed the aroma of the old-fashioned fragrance became strong just before the spirit's appearance at the hospital, which is now among a century old, having first opened in 1929. So it is said that the apparition generally appears when a baby is sick, and after her visit, the child recovers. When details of the supposed apparition was published, the story also featured in an article entitled Ghost of Sisters Past in The Guardian and was later detailed in the book Mysterious Lincolnshire by Daniel Cott. So this is not a new story. It's new to me. I didn't know anything about this, but there have been reports of people and also nurses smelling this very strong violet perfume, especially in the baby's ward. And then when the baby's sick, she comes along and then they're all healed up. Pretty weird. And this article continues. John aside, thank you so much. It says, at work, Just got back. Can we start over? What did I miss? Sorry for the inconvenience. You missed everything, Jonocide. Come on. We're actually right now we're talking about a ghost in a haunted hospital that is believed to heal sick babies. It's kind of a sweet story. It's still a bit spooky for the spooky season, but it's a nice story. Usually when people deal with ghosts, they're not always that great. In this case, no, she's here to help babies. So, however, hospital chiefs were not familiar with the ghostly nurse. At the time of reports, a spokesperson said, "We're not aware of any apparition smelling of perfume. It's a mystery to us." The Department for Health could also shed no light on the story, having never collected statistics on haunted hospitals, saying, "We are far more concerned with helping the living." Now, Mr. Green was reported to have said that this ghost in particular was a form of electromagnetic energy, a fading echo of people whose lives were intensely stressful. Being a nurse is intensely stressful. Mr. Wiseman, an expert in psychology at the University of Hertfordshire, also said shift workers are more prone to sensing or believing in strange things because they are in the buildings associated with crowds and activity, but which go quiet at night and take a more eerie aspect. Mr. Wiseman added, "When anywhere that is usually noisy goes quiet, you can usually hear the background noises you don't usually hear: the pipes, the building, creaking, doors moving, things like this." Although hospital officials were mystified by reports, and it was all these reports began to be collected by former nurses who heard these stories. One of these, Sandra, had worked at the hospital between 1969 and 1990, and she said, "As a pupil nurse, a part of my training took place on Ward 4, which was at the time the children's ward. And I never saw the phantom, but I was informed she was a nurse who died of cancer. Once, while on night duty, the balcony doors and some of the windows flew open simultaneously with a terrific bang. The weather was rough outside, and obviously a strong gust of wind had caused this to happen. However, my fellow nurse and myself were already a bit on edge. Knowing of the ghost nurse, who was supposed to haunt the ward, we dared not leave each other to go out for our second breaks that night. I believe in ghosts, but never met anyone who said they had personally encountered this specter or the perfume. Perhaps this lady is a mystery to many at the hospital now, but she was known about well enough when I was there. It was, of course, the War Memorial Hospital when I first worked there. Now, another former nurse by the name of Lorna also described having not encountered the specter, but had heard the tale over and over again. And she said, "The scent was of Parma violets, and I was told the friendly ghost was that of a former nurse who was named Mac Peace." A former night shift nurse also recalled her memories of the story and that the sister's real name was Bertha. And she said Mac was a lovely, lovely lady and was tiny and slim. She always wore perfume smelling of sweet violets, and her domain was the corridor between two different wards. And those two different wards were between both of them child related. So while not many nurses, at least that were interviewed for this article, had personally interacted with this apparition or had smelled the perfume, these stories had been passed down from nurse to nurse to nurse since the late 1920s onward to present day. And you had Andrew Green, the late Andrew Green, a ghost hunter, who had collected these stories. And I think that is pretty incredible that when you're dealing with hospitals or places of worship, have it be churches or synagogues or temples, when you're dealing with life and death, simultaneously, really, you're going to get a lot of spooky stories, but you're also probably going to get a lot of hauntings as well, because you're getting these extreme emotions, extreme happiness when a baby is born, and extreme grief or sadness when you're visiting a sick loved one or someone that had just passed away in that hospital. It's a pretty interesting story. Now, when it comes to violet perfume, I've actually never smelled that before. I have smelled rose perfume, and it's pretty like meh. But I think violet perfume, classifying it as sweet, is kind of interesting, but also sounds very nice. Oh, Sean says Palmer violets were candy sweets years ago. I had no idea. Sounds nice. Tyler says, we have cameras that record light and sound, but we need one to record scent. I am with you on that one. There has been some inventions that are still theoretical. I don't know that they've been launched yet, but there is one of like earbuds. You plug them in and you're able to like smell things. There's another one of a television created in Japan where you're actually able to like taste things on screen. So like let's say you see a bowl of ramen, you're supposed to be able to taste it. Now that's still going under some tests, but when I came across that article a while ago, that was pretty wild of an invention, but also it seems very futuristic. Charles says, smell-o-vision. I'm all for that one. That's a funny joke. That's a funny one. Before we continue, when you ever been to a hospital, have it be for yourself or when you've been visiting someone, have you ever encountered a type of eerie feeling or a type of uplifting feeling? Or have you ever seen an apparition while you were there? Again, when you're dealing with extreme happiness and extreme sadness, you're going to get weird things. I have not visited a hospital enough times to take notes on these things, not yet at least, but it is a question that is open-ended, and I would like for you to answer. Those that are listening to this live, please put it in the live chat. Patricia says, lilacs are my fave. Lilacs are nice. They're also very pretty looking, and the colors are beautiful. Sensaville, you are so funny. It says, roses smell red, violets smell blue. No idea what I'm saying, and neither do you. That's pretty accurate. Mr. Webb says, I always had a weird feeling around the morgue. That one should be understandable due to the fact that you are literally dealing with dead people 24/7. And maybe those that could still potentially be attached to their body and they're like, what's going on here? Why is someone touching my body? And then you're like, oh wait, hold up, I'm dead. So it's a bit of a joke there, but yeah, morgues are a pretty interesting place. Bit spooky, if you ask me. Laura says, yes, yes, and yes, Christina. Good to know. It is a bit weird, and if you see apparitions, I can only imagine the amount of stories that nurses pass on to one another, even in newer hospitals where they see weird things, or the nurses that take the graveyard shift, right? Ooh, I would love to interview someone like that and hear their stories. Hold on. There was one and I passed it. Here it is. Brian says, I worked in a hospital 12 years. Only one strange feeling, and it made my back hurt. Interesting. Working in a hospital for 12 years and only had one odd encounter? That's a pretty good statistic if you ask me. Kevin says, I've seen ghosts in a hospital. I feel like it's only appropriate to see ghosts there. Well, while you guys reminisce about some hospital experiences that you've had, let's move on to our next article. And this one is a pretty cute one, actually. And I want to read you the article title because it's pretty cute. But I got to show the picture first so that it makes sense as to what I'm reading. So the title is, You've Got to Be kidding me? Get it? Because it's about a bee. Adorable footage shows bees rolling balls around with friends, suggesting the insects play just like humans. So bumblebees are more playful than give them credit for, a new study suggests. Scientists in London set up cameras around a specially created miniature arena to film bumblebees and see how they'd interact with small wooden balls. As this picture shows, the bees went out of their way to roll the balls repeatedly, despite there being no apparent incentive for doing so. Now, there is an actual footage of this that you can look at, and as I had mentioned at the beginning, I will place all the links to these articles below. And for this article in particular, the video is attached to it. And it states, as the clips show, the bees went out of their way to roll the balls repeatedly, once again, despite no apparent incentive for doing so. The adorable footage suggests that insects play just like humans and adds to mounting evidence that bees may experience positive feelings. The research paper entitled Do Bumblebees Play has been published just recently in the journal Animal Behavior. One of the researchers stated, "It is certainly mind blowing, at times amusing, to watch bumblebees show something like play." And this approach to these toys have been manipulated over and over again by different sets of bees. Obviously, multiple tests were done, and consistently, the bees would play with them. And they had no incentive to do so. They weren't given treats. They weren't given in their case, sweet water. They did it because they wanted to. They had this desire to do so. And that's pretty interesting. So they may actually experience some kind of positive emotional states, just the way that we do, cats and dogs, and other animals as well. And for the study, the researchers filmed 45 bees as they made their way through a specially created experimental arena. 45 bees. That's a lot to look at. And practically all of them went ahead and played with these. Now, while there were only 18 wooden balls, they did have a color preference. So, in all, 12 of the balls were spray painted yellow or purple, while the remaining 6 balls were left with their original wooden color. And according to the team, the repeated behavior suggested that ball rolling was voluntary and inherently rewarding for the bees, but they also preferred the colored ones over just the plain wooden ones. And you're able to see that in this image right here, where the bee is playing with one of the orange balls out of all the other ones. It's a pretty cool story. When I saw this, I thought it just goes to show that we still have so much to learn. And while us humans are already incredibly complex, insects, mammals, reptiles, and so on, they are just as complex as we are and more than we give them credit for. Adrian says, behavior. I see what you did there. That's a good one. Jamie says, that's interesting. Never knew that on bees. Me neither. And that's why I'm covering this, because it blew my mind as well. And I'm thinking, that is so cool. Patrice says, orange is a happy color, in my humble opinion, too. Orange is a great color. Now, not everyone can rock the color orange in an outfit, but having like orange in the house, it's so nice. It's so nice. Hyde says, gotta impress the queen. That's right. Always. And this article does go into more detail. And if you want to read more specifically on some of their scientific efforts, you can read that after this show is over. Moving over to our next one. This is a pretty funny one. This one, is also a little bit spooky for the spooky season, of course, obviously. But let me share my screen here. And what we're looking at is a Ouija board, but not just any Ouija board. We're actually looking at a funeral card. Yes, so you have this nice old lady right here stating, "Let's keep in touch." And there's a Ouija board right below it. Let me go ahead and read this very funny article for you. So, a cheeky grandmother has ensured Ouija boards were distributed to all of her loved ones attending her funeral. Gracie Perryman received the ultimate parting gift from her grandmother, Jody, after attending her farewell funeral in Texas. Jody, who died of cancer at age 81, had quite the sense of humor, according to her granddaughter. So it's no surprise that each guest received a card bearing a Ouija board with the words, "Let's keep in touch." And if that wasn't legendary enough, this grandmother also included a picture of herself with her tongue out while she's putting up her middle fingers. Mourners, they gathered at the cemetery and let's just say they had a party. Now, a funeral kind of like this one that is I would state in a sense exciting is nothing new. There was another funeral earlier this year in the UK where the deceased elderly woman by the name of Katie, went ahead and hired a DJ to play at her funeral. She wrote that in her will, obviously, before she passed. And everyone at her funeral were dancing on her grave. What an interesting way to cross over. So instead of everyone crying and being sad, they were laughing and having fun and dancing to some really good music. Now, when it comes to having a DJ at a cemetery, you really get mixed emotions, mixed feelings, really. Some are all for it, and others state that is incredibly disrespectful. Not only are you dancing on this woman's grave that just passed over, but also other graves that are nearby. And I thought, that's kind of interesting. But we came across this information when I had Tui Snyder on Shifting the Paradigm. Is walking over a deceased person's grave disrespectful? And she had mentioned, well, no, not really, because earlier, much earlier in time, churches, right under the floor of churches, were dead bodies. The more money you had, the closer you would be to the altar. The less money you had, you'd be closer to the door. But people were walking over dead bodies every single day when they went to church, right? And that wasn't disrespectful, was it? No, if anything, they wanted to be so close to the church, they didn't care that people were walking over their bodies. So then why has that perspective changed now when you go to a grave, walking over someone's grave is disrespectful? I don't know. Those are the thoughts I had. I've visited graves, especially when visiting my grandparents. Now, I would like to mention, I did not grow up with grandparents. I've never had them. So I never had anyone knit me sweaters and bake me cookies. But I would at times when I would visit go to the grave and visit them. And I always had this fear of like, oh, I don't want to disrespect you. I don't want to walk over your grave. Oh, I'm sorry, neighbor, this other person. I don't want to walk over your grave. And I'd be very careful about all of it. But after talking to Tui Snyder on this, I thought, maybe she has a point. Also, they're buried 9 feet deep. I don't think they're really gonna notice. But what are your thoughts on this when it comes to having a DJ at your funeral or having a card with a Ouija board at your funeral as well? Do you want people to laugh and have fun, or do you want people to mourn for you and miss you? And this is a question that I've had for myself for quite some time because personally, I do not like funerals. I will avoid them to the best of my ability because I don't think funerals are for the dead. I think that they're for the living, the same way that graveyards are. And Tui made mention of this. graveyards and cemeteries are for the living, they're not for the dead. And I have that same thought when it comes to funerals. Put on your best slick black outfit, find someone and cry with them and share all these memories that you had with them, not vice versa. Now, these thoughts are kind of controversial, so I'm not going to share them too much. But yeah, when it comes to funerals, I want people to have fun. If I were to cross over anytime soon, I'll be like, hey, have a DJ, have a bunch of ramen and ice cream and some like really good snacks, and just have fun. Don't cry about me, please. Thank you. Brian, thank you so much for the super chat. It says, I'm your dead May me. May me. But here's a Ouija, so call me maybe. I see what you did there. That one's funny. Thank you. Now, when you look at the word Ouija, the letters look nothing like the way it's pronounced. And I have to like really mentally like push myself when I read the word Ouija. I'm not actually reading the word Ouija because, again, how it looks and how it sounds are not similar. Just like the name Sean. I'm going to go there. Sean, Sean. Where is the SH and where's the W in the name Sean? So I have to like press extra hard in my brain when I read the word Sean because it's not Sheen, it's not seen, it's Sean. And it mentally itches my brain every single time. Puck Ouija. I don't think so. I mean, maybe. They are pretty mischievous. If you were to give a Puck Wedgie a Ouija board, they'd probably mess with it. Pretty weird. Right. Before we continue, I really do want to hear your thoughts on this article when dealing with funerals, having it be fun or having it not be fun. Brian says the card would be funny, but DJ at graveyard, not sure about. Valid. Adrian says lawyers are buried 60 feet, according to rumors. I didn't know anything about that. So I didn't even know that was even a thing. Pigpen says, Christina, everyone is cremation happy these days. Dust in a jar. This is true. That's what my dad said to me. He says, if I ever cross over, I'm not actually going to repeat exactly what he said, but he stated, just put me in a coffee can and then throw me into the ocean and be fish food. I'm happy with that. And I said, hey, you got it. Says, then from there, I can talk to you anywhere, not just in a graveyard, but I've got to go to that river or that lake or that ocean and be like, hey, Dad, how's it going? Brought some snacks. Patrice says, everybody mourns their own way. I'm happy to respect the wishes of the deceased. Absolutely. I am with you on that one. Brian says, Bible says, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Charles says, a DJ, several bands, couple kegs. That's the way to celebrate. Let's talk about our next article. Actually, I think I'm going to skip that one. I'm going to skip that one because we're already kind of pressed for time, but we can always come back towards it. I have another kind of spooky Halloween type article for you. This particular picture has made its rounds over the internet. Before I even read the article, for those watching this on YouTube, what are we looking at here? If you are listening to this on a podcast platform, jump over to YouTube so that you can see this pretty freaky looking image. What are we looking at here? We are looking at a ant face. Not like aunt and uncle, right? No, like an insect ant. And magnified like a bajillion times. I will give you the exact stat in just a moment. But oh my goodness, does it look incredibly demonic. Now, I have seen pictures of ants and their face, and they're already pretty freaky, and they aren't even this zoomed in. But this face is so zoomed in. It has red eyes. It has like the most scary type monster teeth. It's and it doesn't have bones, but I'm going to say its bone structure is so sharp It is freaky. Again, I know ants do not have bones, but I'm just defining its face with a very sharp bone structure. So, at first glance at this image, you'd be forgiven for mistaking it as some just horrifying monster at the latest horror movie that's been released. But this in reality is just a close up of an ant. This image was sent over for a contest at Nikon's Small World competition, and this was given to us by a Lithuanian photographer. So each year, Nikon Small World receives an array of microscopic images that exhibit exemplary scientific technique and artistry. But this one, I mean, there was no year for this exception because we didn't just get scary ant faces. No, no, we got another ant face going on here. And this one is also like, it makes my skin crawl. It is so scary looking. You're even able to see like its pores. Like, I'm not even going to say that, but yeah, you can see its pores. You can see its scary little fangs. These are not its eyes, but it looks like its eyes because they're red. Their eyes are actually, I think they're right here. But yeah, so you get this one image, get this other image. I mean, my goodness, should I stop sharing my screen here? Or are you guys okay looking at these horrifying images for the Halloween season? Go ahead and get yourself ready. I'm just going to keep it up here. Yeah, it's pretty wild. And the photographer had mentioned in an interview that I am fascinated by the creator's masterpiece and the opportunity to see God's designs. I don't know what God was thinking when he made the ant because my goodness, is this terrifying looking. Really up close. And ants, again, are already freaky, right? Because they crawl on you and they bite you and they those bites hurt and they're itchy. No, thank you. But also, actually the way that they live, their kind of hive mind type mentality is very cool. When I was growing up, I did have several ant farms. And what I learned about ants were two things. One, when they defecate, they do so in a pile. They don't just do it randomly. Second, they pile up the dead. So after each ant dies, they pile it on top of each other, giving it a type of cemetery kind of vibe. Pretty interesting actually. So if you have kids and you want to get them a cool Christmas gift, an ant farm I think is a really good way to teach them basic responsibilities, and they require nothing really. Just got to watch them, hope that they don't die too soon. But very cool, honestly. And this article is very short, but it's pretty freaky. And again, this picture has made its rounds across the internet. A lot of more science articles have been covering this. So if you haven't seen it, sorry, I just gave you nightmares. If you have seen it already, you got lucky. You got prepared on this one. ZYX says, ants are nice cleaners and maybe they can learn to play too. That would be really cool to see a test on that. Are ants playful the way that bumblebees are? Because bumblebees are pretty darn playful and they're so cute and fluffy looking and they're really big, and honey is delicious. I love honey. I put honey in all of my herbal tea. And I love no, I don't love all herbal tea. I actually don't really like chai that much, but I love like green tea, white tea, peach tea. Oof, delicious. But it's got to have honey in it. So good. Oh, also like honey sticks. Those are good too. But only with like the really good, like high quality honey that you buy at like the farmer's market. Like grocery store honey, it's usually mixed with like water and some other additives. And because I literally compared it, right? Like honey made from like a local beehive guy and then honey from the grocery store. They're the same price, but the one at the grocery store is always just like extra watery. It's not that flavorful. And then the one at your local beehive guy, right? 10 out of 10. So good. If you haven't bought honey from your local beehive guy, you should check it out. It's pretty good. Logan says, sipping on some green tea right now. That's how you do it. Kevin says, Adam Ant. Actually, never seen that movie. The Ant-Man, I haven't seen it. Is it called The Ant-Man? I don't know, but I haven't seen that one. I've seen Bug's Life. That one's pretty good. Also, like that cartoon about ants. Is that one also called Ant-Man, Ant Hill, Ant something? Yeah, that one's also pretty good. Teaching you to not kick ant hills because that's their home and they worked really hard on creating those ant hills. So yeah, don't kick ant hills. Rock says, I agree, local honey is the best. Yeah, it is. It's pretty good. Oh, just ants. Ants. Okay, thanks, guys. I'm really happy I have you to tell me what the movie's called. Ooh, a honey latte. I haven't had that before, but that sounds kind of good. I'm gonna go to my, I don't know, coffee shop place and see, hey, excuse me, do you happen to have a honey latte? I'd like to have one of those. Thank you very much. Because that sounds delicious. Hyde says, I have a chai tea and I do Tai Chi. That's a good one. All right, moving on to our next article. Oh, this one's cool. This is the potential, and I'm not saying it's for a fact, but there might be a potential UFO type bizarre cryptid paranormal hotspot in the UK. So we always hear about Skinwalker Ranch being this crazy hotspot. Why? Well, because it's getting so much publicity for quite a few decades now. But now with the television show, people think that Skinwalker Ranch is the only place like that in the world. It's not that that is not true. There are weird hotspots across the globe. Bradshaw Ranch in Sedona, Arizona, the Bridgewater Triangle in Massachusetts. And now we're looking at this one here in, let me tell you the exact name, in Sheffield in the UK. I have an image here. I think it's this one. But just a visual aid. Okay, that's it. Just something to look at when I read this article here for you. But if you live in the UK, get a notebook out because you might have a place like Skinwalker Ranch right in your country. So residents were left baffled this week after UFOs reported over Sheffield with a video to show what was happening. You can find that video in the link to this article that will be in the description box below. So, a guy by the name of Neil spotted two mysterious objects in the sky above his home on the Triangle Estate in Handsworth on Wednesday morning and took pictures to try and find an explanation. He said what he saw appeared to be big round balls in the sky, and I really wish they would say spheres in this article because it just sounds a little bit more it's a little better to say, right? Because big round balls just doesn't sound appropriate, does it? No, it doesn't. And I said that last week and people made fun of me for it, but I was literally reading directly from the article. So if you're ever going to write an article about UFOs, please say spheres, please, instead of balls. Thank you. So footage in 2017 showed a flickering light in the sky over Sheffield. Complimentary over the video showed a woman saying, "That's weird. That's not a star, love. No way." Kevin Maggie Pierce, who filmed the clip, said it was flashing green and red at first, and we watched it for 2 hours, and it went back, and then it vanished. We thought it was a helicopter first, but the thing is that it wasn't moving. The object was just staying there, flashing green and red, and then it just vanished. Now, back in March of 1997, at night, an unexpected air crash and explosion was reported at Peak District, Moorland, near Sheffield, after several reports of onlookers seeing an aircraft, and that's in quotation marks, in distress go down near the moor. A total of 141 mountain rescue volunteers from 7 teams were out on foot searching the terrain looking for this crash, right? They didn't find anything. They didn't find any survivors, they didn't find the crash site, and they didn't find any debris either. That was in 1997. And then in 2007, in that same area, there were sightings of a type of demonic dog. Now, it doesn't go into extreme detail on what it means by demonic dog. Could it have been a hellhound? Could it have just been a stray dog? We don't really know from this article, but it goes to show there's some pretty strange things going on in the Sheffield in the UK. But there have been witness accounts of ghost sightings as well. The ghost of a man who was stabbed to death is said to haunt a hotel nearby. And legend has it that the man was murdered when the building was 3 cottages. And to this day, there are reports of the man's screams being heard and footsteps in empty corridors. Excuse me. All right. So right here in Sheffield, UK, you are getting UFO sightings. You're getting an alleged UFO crash. You are getting demonic dogs. What does that mean? I don't know. And then you're also getting paranormal activity as well. Could we classify that as a place similar to Skinwalker Ranch? Well, because extensive research has not been done on that area, it is hard to say. But just from these accounts alone, from 1997 to present day, that's enough to get someone's attention to go ahead and do research on an area like that. What do you think? If you live in the UK next to Sheffield, would you check it out? Would you do investigations? And if you do, please make sure to document it and post it online and to tag me in it because I do want to see. Wellness Sarah says episode of Supernatural with the demon dogs. What episode was that? I watched like the first 3 or 4 seasons of Supernatural when I was in high school. And those were really good. I really enjoyed those, but they did so many seasons. I just couldn't keep up. It was just too much for me. But I love the plot of that TV series. So let's hear what you have to say about this article before we go ahead and move on. Hyde says J. Allen Hynek would call that a weather balloon. That's right. Or swamp gas, right? Oh, geez. It's heartbreaking, actually, about Project Blue Book. It really is. Because I think that people that are just getting involved into the topic, especially those that are in high school and college that aren't familiar, they see Project Blue Book as like a positive project run by the government. But when you begin to do your research, you're like, actually, yes, they were looking at UFO sightings, but then they were brushing it off as something else entirely. It wasn't a good project. Well, in a sense, right? And then J. Allen Hynek went from being a non-believer to a believer. So there were some benefits to Project Blue Book, but the overall purpose of it was not a positive one. They wanted to brush off. The United States government was like, no, UFOs aren't real. They're not a thing. What you're seeing is a weather balloon, and that's it. Kind of sad. Okay. Let's move on. We are doing so well on time, to be honest with you. This one is a very, very short article, but my goodness, is it strange? And what are we on? Well, we are on Strange Weekly News. So, of course, I'm going to be sharing it with you consistently. I feel like the last 6 episodes in a row, there's always one article about snakes. There's always something weird about snakes. And I have a bizarre, when I'm telling you bizarre story, I have a bizarre story for you. This picture is just a visual aid. This is not the actual picture of the article, but a woman in Indonesia was swallowed by a python, according to local reports. An Indonesian woman was swallowed whole by a python. Now, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, and please correct me if I am wrong. There was actually a test done on the Burmese pythons, which are an invasive species in the Everglades in Florida. And scientists and researchers did a test on how big they can open their mouth. Well, Burmese pythons can open their mouth about 14 inches. But when I did my shoulders, kind of like get a feel about how big 14 inches is, I think mine was like, I can't remember, but it was a lot bigger than 14 inches. So a Burmese python, at least the ones that they had in the lab to run these tests, couldn't have swallowed a person. But this one in Indonesia, I don't know. It seems like it was probably a lot bigger to be able to swallow a person whole. This poor lady was in her 50s and she was working at a rubber plantation last Sunday morning. And she was reported missing after failing to return that night, and search parties sent out to find her. A day later, villagers found a python which appeared to have a large stomach. Locals later killed the snake and found her body inside. I have no words, actually, for that one. So the victim's husband found some of her clothes and tools she had used at the rubber plantation to kind of get an idea of where this snake had eaten her. After the snake, which was at least 16 feet long, was spotted on Monday, and villagers then caught and killed it to verify the victim's identity. So her body was found in a python's stomach. There is no question there. That is crazy. And let me just state that, I'm guessing here. I'm guessing that's probably 1 in a million chance. Yes, babies, small children are different, right? Because they're small. Any snake can have them, but with the woman, and usually an elderly woman who is wise, right? Who knows how to venture through her area in her plantation. The fact that this python swallowed her whole, unbelievable. Daz says, horrible. Not the first or the last. Darkstar made a joke and he said that's a mouthful. It sure is. It's pretty freaky. Pretty wild. So like I said, that article is short, but it leaves you stopped in your tracks on how scary that is. Goes to show, be careful. Wear snake boots. Even though in this case you're going to be swallowed whole. Always wear snake boots anyway when you are venturing anywhere that has snakes in it, which is like everywhere. All right. Going on a higher note here, because that's a bit depressing. I have actually a very awesome one. I want to share the image, and you're going to be like, what are we looking at, Cristina? Let me just share it with you. Ooh, not that. There we go. All right, what are we looking at? Japanese company is working on a human washing machine. A human washing machine. Okay, when I saw this, I'm like, I want one. Because let me explain what it does. Okay, this washing machine is supposed to launch in 2025, which is by now like 2 years away, practically. And this washes you, it massages you, it dries you. What else could you ask for? Just go back into infancy, right? Where your parents would do that for you. Now you can have that same thing as an adult. A lot of water, right? Nice and relaxing. Unfortunately, Adrian, it will not fit in my RV, which is heartbreaking. Because I would pay money for this. Look, so here is a rendition of what it would possibly look like. Here is someone in the water. You got a nice comfy chair, and it's doing everything for you. Once again, it's going to launch in 2025. Jamie, it sounds nice. Oh, it's luxury. It definitely is. But we don't know. I don't know how much it is. It's probably going to be obviously a few grand. Obviously, a good few grand. But I guess that amount hasn't been disclosed yet. Also, this is a 15-minute cycle. Okay, so it gets cleaned, massaged, and dried in 15 minutes, which is a little bit depressing, if you want to have a nice, good, relaxing bath, shower, washing machine cycle. 30 minutes I feel is appropriate, right? But 15, if you want to be in a spa, but you only have like a short time period to do it in, sounds pretty great. Surf Psych says, wash and wax. There's no wax here. But it still sounds kind of nice. What if I fall asleep? Say, you're gonna probably wake up very cold, probably. But then again, it does dry you, so all those little water droplets will be removed, so you shouldn't feel that cold. But I can just imagine the amount of people that would fall asleep if they had one. But I want one. Don't know where I'd put it. But it sounds great. Patrice says, I want to love it, but imagine being trapped inside. Okay, let's take a look at these images. I think from this one, there's like a gap. I don't think you actually get stuck inside. I don't know. There's few details on this because it's still not fully out there, this product, but it looks like this might be like a staircase and you walk in, maybe. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. These are the pictures that we have, and it's okay. I still want one. Roof of the ramen wagon. That's where we're gonna put it, John aside. This human washing machine. We're gonna put it on the roof of the RV. Great idea. These are too funny. These are too funny. They really are. If when it comes out in 2025, we're gonna talk about it again and be like, remember back in the day when Cristina Gomez had Strange Weekly News and she talked about this? She's gonna talk about it again, but this time she's gonna do a review on it. Oh, that'd be great. So actually in this, there are sensors inside the washing machine, and they will measure the state of the person inside, along with looking at. So this is actually run by AI, and it's going to attempt to create the most comfortable atmosphere possible per person. So I think everyone's going to have a different settings for them, from what I'm understanding in the article, but it's pretty cool. Very cool. All right, moving on to our next one. Before we do that, let's hear some of your thoughts on these. If you were given the opportunity, would you have a human washing machine? Now, the title sounds kind of scary. I won't lie to you. But the results, just like the process, sounds so nice. Forget the jacuzzi. Have a human washing machine instead. Add a little UV and solve our vitamin D problems. Why not? I totally agree with you. They should give you one for promoting it. I'm in. I will not even hesitate. I'll take it. Can you imagine the bubbles? Laura says. The best bubbles. Adrian says, looks like a microwave oven. Could you imagine that being the title? Human microwave oven washing machine. That'll be the funniest thing on the planet. It would never get sold, but the amount of memes that would be made off of it would be hilarious. It's too good. All right, let's go on to our next one. This is a bit of an interesting one. It's kind of spooky-ish, depending on how you feel about these things. But here we are looking at a mummified child. So, due to complete lack of sunlight, this Renaissance era toddler was killed because of lack of sunlight. So, a virtual autopsy of the mummified remains of a toddler buried inside a family crypt in Austria reveals that the child died from lack of sunlight. The predominant member of the Austrian aristocracy. The young boy lived during the Renaissance between the 14th and 17th centuries and died when he was about 8 to 10 months old. Yet, despite his high status and upbringing, a team of scientists from Germany concluded that he experienced extreme nutritional deficiency and a tragically early death from lymphoma. It's pretty sad. The weird and yet interesting thing about this is that scientists were able to conclude that he was a pretty robust baby, meaning like he was well fed. He was a well fed child. But due to lack of sunlight, he still died. And he had the virtual autopsy had shown that he had these weird ribs known as what's it called? Rich like a rich thick rosary. I think it's how it's pronounced because I don't have it written down, but I'm trying to remember the name of it. And it's pretty much it's like malformations occur when knobs of rib bones begin to resemble rosary beads due to vitamin D deficiency. And the boy's remaining soft tissues showed that he was also overweight when he died, eliminating the possibility that he was also underfed. That wasn't the case. So, this is a pretty odd account, and it makes me question what was this child's life like? The Renaissance era was a pretty in a sense prosperous time period, especially for his status. He was a part of the aristocratic status, okay? So he should have been able to play outside, have a lot of land to play with, right? Grass, trees, playing with animals, things like this. But allegedly, he was kept inside all day. What was the purpose of that? Was his family scared of him getting lost or running away? Was he a part of something maybe a little bit more sinister than that? We really don't know. All the scientists know is that he died due to lack of sunlight. There are no other factors to that. Sarah says, was he hiding, I wonder, for some reason? This is a question worth asking. Also, definitely make sure to always take vitamin D pills. Very important, especially now where we're most of the time inside, have it be in offices or at home, things like this. Public announcement, take your vitamin D pills. That is right, Zenza Bill. Vitamin D deficiencies affect bones. It does. And so you always got to take your pills or your vitamins. Just take the basics. B13, also B3, also very important as well. Zinc, magnesium. Apparently, magnesium helps with acne. I have acne scars, and I wish I had taken magnesium when I suffer from acne. I had to take medication for it. This is like information that no one cares about, but I'm going to share it with you anyway. I suffered from acne in my high school years, even to like my freshman year in college. And now I have a bunch of scars. So I make sure to wear a foundation when I'm on camera so that you do not see those scars. So yeah, if you have acne or if your kids have acne, give them magnesium. It's supposed to help them. Again, I wish I knew that a little bit earlier in life. Good job. I take mine every morning. That was really, really good. Okay. Oh, I've got 20 minutes left. Nice. I still got some good articles for you. All right. Let me take a sip and we'll continue. Have you ever wondered if humans had tails? What would we do with them? I've never wondered this, but if you did, you are in luck today because I have an article on scientists thinking about this exact questions. What if humans had tails? How would that work? What would they do for us? Well, I'm just going to share a picture here for a visual aid while I read you this scientific article. Okay, this one is from Live Science. I actually love the Live Science website. It is so, the website is so easy to maneuver. I love all the pictures that they use as well, and the articles are usually incredible. So, what would it be like if humans actually had tails? How would the extra appendage change our daily lives and what would they look like? Right? The fluffy little tails like we're seeing here would be super cute, but for the most part, we actually don't have fur, right? So we probably wouldn't have the cute furry fox tails or cat tails the way that these cute little animals do. For some people, there is this is more than just a thought experiment. In rare instances, babies with spina bifida, a condition in which a baby is born with gaps in the spine or an irregular coccyx, might be born with a type of like pseudo tail. If you don't know what that looks like, you can Google it and you can see those images. I'm not going to share them here because it's not for everyone's eyes. But yeah, this is it's a rare condition, but it is a thing. There are humans that have tails, because just like their spine kind of popping out a little bit more than it should. And it's interesting. So these fleshy outgrowths often contain muscle and the connective tissue and blood vessels, but usually no bone or cartilage, according to research published just recently. But there are no functional and are useful, usually removed shortly after birth. So when we're looking at spina bifida, because it's so odd, right? Because people just don't have tails, they're not functional, first off, and they're usually removed shortly after birth, which is, again, understandable. So, looking at human evolution, our distant primitive ancestors had some sort of tail. Tails disappeared in our direct lineage around 25 million years ago, for those that follow Darwinism, right? With great apes, um, kind of great apes going from monkeys, right? So our ancestors may have ditched the extra appendage to save energy and calories as they evolved better bipedal balance. But of course, tailed primates are still hanging around today. Certain species of monkeys native to South and Central America, dubbed New World monkeys, have these really long tails that they're able to grasp objects. They can curl around tree limbs, right? And they even support their body weight. But when we're looking at old world monkeys, such as the ones that people believe that we evolved from, right, with Darwinism, they don't have those really long tails. For example, apes, for instance, they have these kind of shorter tails that are usually used a little bit more for balance. So our tails, they probably wouldn't be these long, extravagant tails that can just like grab things and you can hang upside down with them. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that they would be useless. A long, furry tail, for instance, could be used to wrap ourselves for warmth, kind of like a built in scarf. And if we had evolved to hibernate during the winter, our tails could come in handy as a fat storage system. Again, this is just merely a thought experiment, something worth considering. I know there are a few people that have thought, I wonder if I had a tail. Like, what would I do with it? Well, this article should address that. Once again, we probably would not have these long, awesome tails. They might be furry. I probably doubt that they would be, or they could be to help us store fat during the winter if we were to hibernate, which we don't. Well, we sleep every single day, and during the winter, we usually sleep more. This is proven, but we don't actually hibernate where we're practically in a coma for a few months. It's not the case. So this one, it's a pretty just a bizarre thing that I came across. Again, this is strange weekly news. So that we should go ahead and cover it because it's just weird. But have you ever thought about, I wonder if I had a tail? Has that thought ever come across to you? Have it be you were watching a TV show, you were reading a book, or you were in a conversation, or you were staring at your animal companion and you thought, I wonder if I had one. It's interesting. That's right, Nunu. Some people do have tails, but again, they're usually removed at birth. There was one movie, and I told myself I was gonna remember what movie it was before today's show, but there was a movie about, I think it's with Adam Sandler, where his best friend had a tail and he was able to shake it when he was happy, like a dog, right? I cannot remember the title of that movie, but this is a real condition that some people have. And it was in the movie he'd stated that he wasn't able to snip the tail was because there was still like actually bones in it, or there was like blood vessels attached, like a little bit too dangerous to cut, so we had to keep it, something like this. But that is actually even more rare than already having this odd condition because it's usually just muscles and there's no bone, no cartilage, but there is also blood vessels in there as well. But again, you're able to remove that. This is it's weird. If anyone knows what movie that is, please tell me. It's been bothering me since I read this article. Again, I told myself I'm gonna find out that name for today's show. But today's been really, really hectic. I actually almost made it to this show today, like on time and prepped. But let's see who has the answer. And I'm scrolling through the comments. Was it Shallow Hal? I thought it was Adam Sandler. But what's his name? Jack Black. That's a good movie. It might have been that one where his best friend had a tail. I liked that movie. Shallow Hal. Okay, it is. All right. I'm happy you are here to tell me which movie it is. It's a good one. I actually liked it. Everyone's saying Shallow Hal. Thank you, everybody. Okay, here is our last, I think maybe our last article. If not, I have another one prepared. But how many of you have a fear of being buried alive? This isn't usually a conversation that you casually have with people. Hey, what's your biggest fear? You know what? I have this fear of being buried alive. Is that weird? That's not a real conversation that I've had. I never even thought about being buried alive. Now, there is this one episode in Father Ted. If you haven't watched it, all of the episodes are on YouTube. It's an Irish sitcom from the 1990s. Literally my favorite TV show of all time. Whenever I'm sad, that's the show that I watch to make me laugh. Well, anyways, one of the fathers, Father Jack, he has this huge fear of being buried alive. And there's a whole episode on that. Once again, if you are a fan of this show, if you like the work that I do, my name is Cristina Gomez. Watch Father Ted and come back and comment because it's my favorite TV show, literally of all time. Well, in this article, it's literally about Russian firm offers creepy buried alive experience for £50,000 in psychic theory, excuse me. Okay, so you are going to pay someone £50,000, which is about, and I'm estimating here, that's about $100,000. You're gonna pay someone that much money for them to bury you alive for a psychic theory. Yeah. So a Russian company is offering the chance for customers to be buried alive for around 50K pounds in a therapy to deal with anxiety that will also help users discover psychic abilities, right? Because you're going to enter this fight or flight thing in your body. And at that moment, when you're going through that, that's when allegedly you should snap your fingers and now you have psychic abilities. And that's what this company is practically implying. So the full immersion funeral held in St. Petersburg sees customers buried alive for up to an hour. And apparently, in the online version, which you can even get an online version for £13,000, where you get appropriate music, you get candles, and writing a will are employed as well. The company called Pre-Cated Academy states that some customers will also be helped to manage their fears and anxieties after the funeral package. The life coach described the experience as a true symbol of fighting for yourself and your whole happy future. Does that sound weird to you? Is it just me? Do I think this is crazy? Or are you agreeing with me on this one? Because it's weird. You're gonna pay someone to go through like maybe some of your darkest fears. You won't die actually, because it states that an hour is a pretty safe time to be buried alive, but scientists have calculated that the buried person will have enough air in the coffin for about 5.5 hours. The reason to why this possibly costs so much is that you're able to keep the coffin afterward for memories if you're going to do this in person. Again, there is an online offer as well, but if you're going to do this in person and actually be buried under the ground, you will be able to keep the coffin for those $100,000 that you spent on it. Dude, if you want to have this experience, just go get a shovel and dig yourself, please. But just don't do this at all. I mean, unless you really have a thrill for it, I am not going to tell you what to do, what to think. That's not what I'm here for. But in my opinion, and I'm sharing my opinion here, I think it's pretty crazy and nonsensical, if you ask me. Well, you can also, because you do have that 1 hour limit, right? But it can go anywhere from 20 to 60 minutes being buried underground. If you really wanted it, look, if you really want it, go for it. This is in Russia. If you want to go to Russia, go ahead and have this experience for you. There are probably things very similar to this in the United States as well. I kind of don't doubt it at this point. All of the strange stories that we've covered here in the last 24, 25 episodes, I don't doubt something like this exists in the US as well. If you want to Google it, go ahead. But this experience is apparently meant to help with past traumatic experiences, but also to create a new and cool, interesting life. That is, quote, what the life coach said when she was doing the interview for this. What are your thoughts? Share your thoughts with me. If they forget to dig you up, can you sue? It's only if you come out alive, Patrice. Oh, jeez. Zenza Bill says Indiana Jones hates snakes. So true. Tyler says, oh, great. You get to keep a reminder of the traumatic experience. Sounds like great therapy. Jeez. Is it tax-free? This is a valid question, Brian. Is it tax-free? I sure do hope so. Jonacide says, being buried alive in a coffin, yeah, lack of air, okay, sucks. But being buried on a cave-in freaks me out. Hey, caves? It's a hit or miss. Oracle, thank you so much for the super sticker. Thank you. Yeah. No. Yeah. Don't try this at home, please. But remember, take your vitamin D pills while you're at it. Adrian says, I have trust issues. I am with you on that one. I can just imagine, like, let's say I were to do this. I can just imagine I would be that one person where the company would forget me. Why? Because I've had experiences like that consistently, where I'm always that one statistic, that one, where they're like, oh, this has never happened before, but it happened to you. The amount of times I've been told that is insane. So yeah, I have trust issues as well. It's not for me. But would you do this? Yes or no? Would you do this experience? Let's say you had the money for it, okay? Let's say it was even offered to you for free to promote the company. Would you do it? Have it be for a thrill experience, have it be for entertainment, have it be to really help with your past traumatic experiences, or have it be to attempt to open up your psychic abilities? Would you do it? Cristina the Outlier. Great book, by the way. Not Cristina part, but The Outlier. It's a psychology book. It's pretty good. Daniel says, I wouldn't do it even if they paid me. John aside on the other side, get it, says, sure, I'd Facebook Live it. Mr. Webb says, for free? Possible. But I wouldn't pay for it though. Bill also says, for free? Sure. Did you? I don't know. I have to watch it back and make sure. Oracle says, no way. No being buried alive for me. I think I'm with you on that one. Sarah says, not even close. Do not like thrills. Not a chance, says Adrian. Maka says, hard pass. Joe Unroe Jr. says, ask Church if he would do it. Well, Jimmy Church has claustrophobia. So it's probably going to be a hard pass for him. And I agree. It's a bit freaky. Jamie says, I'd work on my psychic abilities another way. Yeah. I'd pay to watch. Oof. I mean, also, aside from it being a company trying to help you with your traumatic experiences, it would also be interesting to have like a psychology test done on it as well to see how would people react to being buried alive, but also knowing the fact that they will be released from the ground within 20 to 60 minutes. You know, I think that would be kind of an interesting psychological experiment that I would like to read about. Just plain nope, says Laura. But Mikael says, sign me up. I'm in. I don't know if you're joking or not, but hey, dude, if you're in, you're in. Rock on. Well, that is all the time that we have for today's articles. Out of everything that we covered today, which one was your favorite? We definitely had more spooky stories this week than any other week because it's only appropriate for Halloween, which is in a few days, and it is still the spooky season because it is Ghost-tober. So let me know in the live chat or in the comments the article that was your favorite. I think in my case, my favorite one, I liked them all. I really liked all the articles this week, but I really, really want a human washing machine. But I think for the spooky season, the ant, the zoomed in photo of the ant face, scary, but very cool. The technology and the photographs that we're able to take today compared to any other day. I'm also a total nerd when it comes to photography and videography. I love photography with like all of my heart. I've had to kind of put it on the side of my passions because this passion is so much more overwhelming than anything else. But if given time, if time permits, which is so rare these days, but if it does, I would really enjoy to get back into photography. I love it all. But which one was your favorite? Oh, Days has the same one as me, the human washing machine. It's my favorite. Jessica says, great show today. The ant face and the baby mummy. Creepy. Human washing machine. Excuse me, like I almost choked there. But yes, human washing machine is the best one. Well, I would like to mention that Monday, the Unknown Zone, is going to be about the mysteries of the Sphinx. Tuesday on Shifting the Paradigm is going to be with James Fox talking about his newest film, Moment of Contact. Seriously, I guarantee you do not want to miss this interview. The stories and the information that he covers, you will not hear anywhere else. And then on Thursday, Mystery with the History is going to be the Mysteries of Egypt Part 3. Why? Because you asked for it. We did a poll yesterday on if you want a Part 3 or not for those that joined the video live, and 98% of you said yes, please, Egypt Part 3. So you are going to get that. And then on Friday, once again, it's going to be Strange Weekly News. That is it for today. Make sure to say goodbye to Puck the Puck Wedgie. Be safe. And remember, keep your eyes on the skies.